Hello everyone, welcome back to Relax with Animal Facts. I am Stef Wolfe, and today I am going to be learning with you about our furry, scaly, or possibly even slimy friends. And in today's case, it is definitely going to be a slimy friend of ours because we are covering the oh so wonderful cuttlefish. This is, of course, a very special listener episode dedicated to Kaylee and her dad, Kenna and Merbarta. Thank you all for taking the time to write in with this wonderful suggestion. This is one of the most unique creatures I think that we have covered so far. So suffice to say that I am pretty excited. If there is a super cool animal that you want to learn about on the show and have your very own episode, you can send in your animal requests in 3 different ways. The first is through Instagram, through the handle Relax with Animal Facts. You can also go to the website relaxwithanimalfacts.com and go to the Animal Request tab. And lastly, you can always email relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. Both the website and shooting me an email all go to the same place. It's just a matter of your convenience. For those of you that find extinct animals really cool, we started an extinct animal miniseries on Patreon. We've done the Tanzanian tiger and the woolly mammoth so far. All of that stuff is in the show notes or the description. That's at the patreon.com/relaxwithanimalfacts. I'm just going to say where I got the facts from for this episode so that we can get right into it, no dilly-dallying. All of the facts that are within this episode come from Britannica.com, nationalgeographic.com, acp.eugraph.com, mentalfloss.com, and etimonline.com. As always, all of those links will be in the show notes or the description of this video, and I greatly encourage you all to explore those resources on your own. They have such a breadth of knowledge awaiting your discovery, and this episode would not be possible if it were not for their work. And now I would like for all of you to just take a moment and realize where you're carrying some tension. This is always entirely unique to you. It might be in the arms or the legs or the head. For me, as always, it is in my hands because I work with my hands a lot, and all of that tension that we're currently holding is not exactly necessary, especially not as we're scuba diving in the oceans. And so I encourage all of you right alongside me to try to relax those parts of your body, whatever they are, as we go into this immersive experience together. Strap on your scuba gear, because right underneath us lays an underwater world where the cuttlefish resides. A cuttlefish, despite its name, is not actually a fish. They are intelligent invertebrates that are related to the squid, the octopus, and the nautilus, which are all fantastic episodes on their own. And remember that invertebrates are animals that do not have a backbone. And these backboneless creatures will have about 120 different species, and there are more than 120 different species of just cuttlefish. They're found in the oceans all around the world, some living in shallow waters, indeed most of them, but some can also be found at the bottom of the depths of more than 3,000 feet down. Their common name is cuttlefish, the one we have been using from the start, but their scientific name is Sepida. For those of you that might be more fashion-oriented. I know I'm not. But the word sepida might sound somewhat familiar to you. That's because it is very closely related to the word sepia, that very rich brown pigment that we see. And those come from Latin and Greek words for cuttlefish, though we're not entirely sure where this word came from before the Greek. But these invertebrates are carnivorous and will live only between 1 to 2 years of age. That is not a long time. But if we remember the octopus episode, they are not too far from the octopus. They seem to have fairly short lifespans. The lifespan can change just a little bit between species just because of size and location and other factors. We remember that there are more than 120 of them, the smallest of them being 1.7 inches and the biggest 20 inches. So the biggest cuttlefish is about 10 times bigger than the smallest cuttlefish. The cuttlefish is given the distinction of a cephalopod, just like the octopus. Any animal that is considered to be a cephalopod, it is because they are part of this class of mollusks known as cephalopoda, and it comes from a Greek word literally translated into head feet. This could be because it looks as though their head is directly attached onto their feet or their tentacles. So we see that the cuttlefish and the octopus are very similar in certain ways, but they are also tremendously different, as we'll find out. The cuttlefish in specific has a very flat body with these pair of little fins on the outside. All of the more than 120 species have 8 arms along with 2 longer tentacles that are used for the purpose of capturing prey. These 2 tentacles are always holstered except for when they spring out into action to catch something. So they have these 2 pouches that hides them very well except for when they're needed. On their tentacles, they have those very signature suction discs or pads on their arms, along with these slightly larger pads at the tips of the tentacles. One of the facts that make the cuttlefish so cool is their ability to control their buoyancy. When we're referring to buoyancy, it just means the ability for you to float up or float down in water. They have an internal shell that is aptly named the cuttlebone that they use to achieve these different levels of buoyancy. Like little ocean chemists, they will be adding different amounts of gas or liquid into the tiny holes of this structure to allow them to either rise if need be or to descend lower into the sea. They also have that very unique ability of using jet propulsion. They will fill their body cavities up with a bunch of water, and then all at once, with a mighty exertion, they will forcefully send out that water and propel themselves backwards. This will come in very handy when they need to evade any sort of predator. Now, the cuttlefish is not at all safe from predation, though it is itself a dangerous and formidable predator. It has its own things to worry about. They are preyed on by dolphins, large fish, sharks, even sea lions, in addition to the very harsh betrayal of a fellow cuttlefish from time to time. Using that similar mechanism of propulsion, they can very forcefully squirt out a cloud of ink in order to distract the predator and try to get away. They even have the ability, as the underwater chemists they are, to mix mucus with the ink to try to create a sort of decoy. This is known by an interesting term called pseudomorph. meaning that it is an artificial or fake form of the cuttlefish. And how often do we cover animals with that ability? But ink is not their only form of defense. They also have a defense that is somewhat more artistic in nature. But instead of shooting out ink in an attempt to run away, they will put on these very dazzling visual displays to try to discourage whatever it is that is hunting them. Maybe if they see the pretty lights of the cuttlefish's display, they will forget that they are hungry. They will also use this visual display in a way that is really mesmerizing, but we'll learn about that in just a moment. They might even adapt their response to specific predators. Sharks have a way of detecting things through electroreception. That means that they can find out where something is by electrical currents emitted by the prey. So the cuttlefish will try to minimize whatever electrical signals it puts out by covering their body with their arms, freezing, standing still, and slowing their breathing. This seems remarkably similar to what many people do in movies with dinosaurs. If I just don't move, maybe they won't see me. They are also gifted with camouflage, which will allow them to avoid these scary interactions with predators in the first place. They have color cells in their skin, about 10 million of them, and they have control of each one. They can quickly change their pattern, their texture, and their color. So we are not just talking about a red to blue, we are talking about pattern changes and a physical texture. They will even add on top a performance with their tentacles to try to really sell this illusion. While they will use this to evade predators, they will also use it as a kind of ambush tactic with prey that they are hunting, as well as a form of communication with other cuttlefish. They have even been seen to display 2 messages at one time. At least one male cuttlefish has been seen doing 2 things at once. That is, wooing a female by flashing their courtship colors on one side of their body, while simultaneously disguising itself as a female on the other side to trick a male rival. That is something that is truly incredible. But it's interesting that they can trick one another at all, given how good their vision is. The first thing of their vision that might seem a little odd is that they are totally colorblind. This seems something like nature's irony, that the chameleon of the sea, as it is called, is colorblind. But their eyes are one of the most unique in the animal kingdom. They have pupils that are not square, they're not circle, they are W-shaped. And these distinct pupils will help them to see almost everything. They are even capable of switching between forward-facing and peripheral vision. So similar how we have phones with rear-facing cameras and forward-facing cameras where we just tap a button, the cuttlefish has already had that technology for a long time. The cuttlefish also has a unique ability to detect differences in polarized light. This gives a dimension to their vision that we don't have. It allows them to see the angle at which light is reflected when it bounces off of something. This little slimy friend of ours seems to be a kind of superhero in the sea. What a unique set of characteristics they have. Similar to the octopus, which they are indeed similar to, the cuttlefish are very intelligent. They have large brains. In fact, they have a big brain-to-body size ratio, among the biggest of all of the invertebrates, which makes them very capable and intelligent. They are able to count. They are able to remember what and where they last ate something, and they have even been seen to exercise a sort of patience. A 2021 study that was testing cuttlefish found that some of them would eat less food earlier if they know that they will be rewarded with shrimp, which is their favorite treat, if they waited. This might be equivalent to the marshmallow test, which is a test in humans to see how patient some toddlers are. Will they eat the marshmallow now, or will they wait and get 5 marshmallows? And it seems as though a full-grown cuttlefish has some advantage over a human toddler in the area of patience. The area that is behind the eyes of the cuttlefish is known as the mantle, and that is where all of their internal organs are, including their 3 hearts, as well as the blue blood that furnishes it. That is not a fact entirely unique to cuttlefish. If you have not heard the octopus episode already, they also have 3 hearts and blue blood. During the ceremony of courtship for the cuttlefish, the male will put on a dazzling light show, similar to the light show it puts on to try to evade predation. Cuttlefish males are not very nice to each other when it comes to rivalries, which is why they will oftentimes try to trick and deceive one another. The female will produce about 100 to 300 eggs, which are called sea grapes, by the way, but they will be set in bunches and stained black by the ink of the mother. Cuttlefish will die after reproduction at about 2 years of age. That dazzling light show that the cuttlefish puts on for its female counterpart, as well as to protect itself from predators, can be used on the offensive as well. Cuttlefish have the very unique ability of hypnotizing their prey. If you have not seen this before, it is truly amazing and warrants a search on YouTube. They will very quickly manipulate those special color cells that they have to contract and dilate over and over again, which creates a very dazzling spectacle for an unsuspecting little crab. And the final fact of the episode is the name cuttlefish. Where does it come from, or what does it mean? The cuttlefish was really given its name sometime in the 1590s and was classified as a type of cephalopod. It goes back to an Old English word and even farther back to Middle German and Old Norse. The Middle Low German word meant container or pocket, while the Old Norse word meant cushion. It was also sometimes referred to as the scuttlefish in the 17th century. So I'm not entirely sure if this container, pocket, or cushion referred to by the Middle Low German and Old Norse words refers to that little pocket that they have where they hide those tentacles that they very quickly shoot out and pierce crabs with. That is entirely speculation, but it is very cool nonetheless. Now we are going to move on to the review portion of the episode. This is where I read your reviews, which you have all generously left. And for this episode, it comes from Hender100K, who wrote in via Apple Podcasts all the way from Germany. So it just so happens that the word cuttlefish comes from a Middle Low German word, and we have a listener writing in with a review from Germany. So Hender100K writes, "This podcast is amazing. This podcast is amazing. It helps me to sleep and I learn a lot about animals. Would love to hear one about bumblebees, 'cause I really like them. Smiley face." Thank you, Hender, for that very, very kind review. I am so glad that it helps you sleep and to learn at the same time. And I have to say that you are not the only one who wants to learn about the bumblebee. That is going to be one exciting episode, and Hender, I will be sure to give you a big shout out on your future episode, along with everyone else who has requested that magnificent little insect. If you want to leave a review for the show, it is one of the biggest things that you can do in support of it. So if it has helped you, I greatly encourage you to do so, though it is entirely superfluous and out of your generosity, because your company with me each week is simply gift enough. If you want to request an animal, you can do so by sending a message to Relax with Animal Facts on Instagram, or by going to relaxwithanimalfacts.com and going to the Animal Request tab, or by sending an email to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. I look forward to all of your wonderful suggestions, and for those of you that want to learn more about animals that no longer walk our planet but are just as amazing and unique, you can go to the Patreon, patreon.com/relaxwithanimalfacts. All of the necessary links are in the description, and I hope to see you there. Thank you all for joining me for this truly amazing episode. I look forward to the next podcast episode, and I hope you will join me to learn about the next animal. Take care.